Oh, this fucking goof again? Chucklehead here is the ambassador that the Americans have foisted on us, and here he is today saying, well, Canada's meddling in American politics, buddy. One province put an ad in the World Series, but sure, since you mentioned meddling, let's look back. Let's start with a CIA document called Canada SR-49. It was declassified about 12 years ago, but it shows that in the 50s, the CIA and FBI were inside Canada monitoring Canadian politicians, spying on our labor leaders and activists, often without Ottawa's consent. Meddling. In the early 60s, JFK couldn't stand Diefenbaker, so he sent the White House's star pollster to Canada, crossing the border under a fake name to directly interfere and work with the opposition Liberals. That opposition leader, Pearson, was invited to a photo op at the White House. Weeks later, the Tories lost 21 seats in the House of Commons and later lost the government. Meddling. Then there was the whole nuclear weapons pressure campaign around the same time. Canada obviously didn't want U.S. nuclear weapons on our soil, so Washington applied the kind of friendly persuasion that feels a lot like someone with their hand on your shoulder telling you, wouldn't it be a shame if something happened to your continental defense relationship? The U.S. Embassy leaked classified defense documents to push Canada toward accepting U.S. nuclear warheads. Meddling. And foreign interference by any definition. You know, even as recently as the last decade, Americans were interfering in Canadian government. Multiple administrations pressured Ottawa to kill the idea of legalizing cannabis. Homeland Security officials threatened to treat all Canadians as high-risk travelers. American agencies warned Ottawa that border disruptions would be inevitable. Meddling. That's not even counting the American companies pouring money into lobbying here, especially in our oil and gas, rewriting regulations and our policy briefing papers. America never wants cooperation. It wants acquiescence. Now, they might call it alignment or security sharing or something like that, but it's obedience thereafter. And the minute Canada pushes back, even a little bit, suddenly we're the real threat to democracy. Listen, Chucklehead. If you want a serious conversation about foreign meddling, great. Let's have that conversation, you and me. But you do not get to rewrite history for our country. You do not get to pretend that you're the aggrieved one here. And you definitely do not get to scold us for playing by rules that your country stopped respecting decades ago. Canadians do not need a lecture about decency from a man who, as ambassador to the Netherlands, claimed that Muslims were running around the country lighting politicians on fire. He was born there, a country which we, Canada, liberated in 1945. 7,600 of our soldiers were killed to free the country that gave you life, Ambassador. So with all due respect, shut the fuck up. And one last thing. Chucklehead hates queer people. He's a contributor to Project 2025. When he was in office, he opposed gay adoption rights and gay marriage. So I made this mug. It's made in Canada. I'm selling it on my merch store, and I'm giving every penny of profit it makes this year to the Rainbow Railroad to help them get LGBTQ people out of the US and into safety here in Canada. I'll post all the receipts. And hey, if you don't want a mug, there are also stickers and a tote bag and a t-shirt, or you can just straight up donate to the Rainbow Railroad if that's what you want. It's all at chucklehead.toddmaffin.com. Because in Canada, we don't let bullies set our values.